Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonder Year podcast. It's me, Paddy Raff, sitting here with producer Riggsy. How's the form? We all good?
Yeah. Really pissed off about how grim the summer's been.
Yeah, the weather's been
It's really getting me down because I think I had so much that I was looking forward to about the summer. I really felt like it was going to be the end to all my problems, that it was just going to be nice and bright and sunny, and I was going to be out enjoying myself. And it's just been rubbish. And we're already...
It needed to be good weather for that to happen, because you can't rely on the weather here, but it has been particularly shit.
It's been really, really awful. And we're nearly into July, or we're hitting July, depending when you're listening to this. And it feels like it's just hurtling by, you know.
Well, let's try and lighten the mood by saying that this week's
just being honest,
podcast.
you did ask me how I am, you know. If you don't want to know, don't ask.
We don't actually really want to know. We just want to kind of go,
all
good.
Yeah, it's
good.
Brilliant. How are you, Paddy?
But the weather was good in 1997, which is Neil Delamere, who's the guest. It's his year, 1997. It's his wonder year. I actually do remember the weather being really good in 97. You know,
why do you remember that?
Because I have a encyclopedic knowledge and
I remember
memory.
It being really good 96 during the Euros.
Was good then, yeah. Maybe I'm getting mixed up with that. But so this week's episode is with stand-up comedian Neil Delamere. You will know him from a lot of TV stuff, a lot of radio stuff as well. Blame Game on TV and Fight and Talk on 5 Live. That's on, isn't it?
5 Live, yeah. Colin
So yeah, I've always watched his stuff and loved it and wanted to get him on the podcast, and he was very good of him to come in, have a chat with us. It was really good crack. It's very funny, and it's a really good listen. We'll get straight to it after we give a quick shout out to Victoria Square, who are our sponsors.
Well, if it's a rainy day, we're better to spend
good
it.
Good segue. Is that why you did that?
No,
I'm on to you, you know, right?
You go to Victoria Square. It's covered up. You could go, if you're lucky enough to receive a gift card that will work for the entire centre.
Get you out of the rain, the gift card for free.
Out of the rain, yeah. You can go stand inside, otherwise you're not allowed in, and you have to just get wet. And you can enjoy some quality food. The whole sort of Wagamama versus Five Guys debate. That's one for the ages.
I'm gonna have to go and try and sample other restaurants in there now to bring some more in, because we're pitting them against each other in a battle that they're probably not grateful for.
I've been to many of the other restaurants in there, and there are some fantastic choices. And of course, you can go and see flicks, and you can shop in any number of wonderful shops.
What else do you do in shops? Shop in shops.
It feels really half-hearted. I just sort of feel like people who regular listeners, thank you very much, by the way, if you're a regular listener, are just sick hearing me rave about Victoria Square, and they think that I'm being really insincere because I'm always so upbeat about it, so I'm sort of trying to play it down, and that's it's backfiring.
If we had another producer, I'd be going to the other producer after going, here, cut out all that stuff he said about Victoria Square, but you're the producer. Yeah. So anyway, we'll get straight into the podcast. This is Neil Delamere chatting to me about his wonder year of 1997. The Wonder Year. People are going to get to hear us literally getting to know each other because we've never met.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things that you kind of think you should have met that person, but you haven't.
I just look like all bald guys look the same, so you're probably like, I've definitely worked with him, I've seen him, but
I've seen your videos.
Yeah,
I do feel like I know you.
So Neil's wonder year is 1997. We'll get to that in a minute, but just thought we'd kind of shoot the breeze and see what the crack is anyway. What are you up to at the minute?
At the moment, I am planning for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Just mentioned that.
Yes, and you've told me that you're going to go be there for 5 days, which is not doing the Fringe at all. And you shouldn't be allowed to say that.
Yeah.
You're dipping in and out.
It's appropriating everybody else's.
Yeah, unless you find yourself urinating onto your own flyer that somebody has put into your urinal, losing money hand over fist, and it's 25 nights in. That's doing the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
You don't do your own flyer now, do you?
No. I did it years ago, and then went, I would prefer no people come than for me to flyer.
Yeah.
Some people are brilliant at it. I'm just not good at it.
It's too embarrassing. I have this cringe.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do it.
And I remember the first year I did Edinburgh, there was, this is how you know how few... Now, you're going to be fine, because obviously you have a fan base. But when I did it the first time, nobody went, right? That's the standard for most people. Nobody goes. And my agent... This is how few people went. She handed me a box of chocolates, right, to say you've gotten through the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And I opened a box of chocolates on the last night and gave everybody in the audience a chocolate. And I didn't get through to the second layer of the box of chocolates.
You could have doubles.
Yeah, I could have
basically.
doubles. Yeah. So that's what Edinburgh is.
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
in my day.
Well, you see, say people like I have a fan base. Literally, it seems just here because like I put on tickets this year. Like the Saturday night sold out really quick, but that seems to be it. There seems to be like that's all my extended family if I count them. That is all of
Scotland,
them.
it'll be fine. Don't
Yeah.
worry. And also, people buy late as well. So it's
Yeah,
good.
apparently it's one of those kind of things. Well, I did Glasgow on the wee sort of tour whenever things opened up for a bit between sort of variants.
Yeah.
When we all kind of like.
Yeah, it was like guerrilla gigs, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's open, go, go, go,
Yeah,
go, go.
it was like, you know, the truce during the World War when they came out and played like
Play
football,
football,
together.
yeah.
We all went out to gigs and got
Yeah.
COVID. And I did or more. It was really good crack. And everybody says you'll love Scotland, you'll love the people. And yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I did a stand a while ago, and it's one of the best comedy clubs in the world.
Everybody keeps saying it was gonna.
Brilliant.
And is it in the Fringe Festival crowd? I went once just as a punter. Is it really not many Scottish people? It's all the sort of blow-ins from around the world. Am I right in saying?
Yeah, I think it is. There's a lot of people up from London. There's a lot of kind of middle classy people who go to certain things.
I find that, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
But I do think, I think there's a lot of. It depends on where your fan base is coming from. Like, you know, Edinburgh, I think if you're going there for the full whack, particularly before I suppose people had profile, you would go and you would just try and figure out how you could reduce the odds for those people, because so people would like, how do you get them in? You either flyer them and they like you from the flyer. That's reduced the odds of it being a bad gig because they like you, or word of mouth has reduced the odds of it being a bad gig because they like you. Or you get good reviews. But now there's so many different ways to do it, which is good, you know, because people then take a chance in seeing somebody they haven't seen before.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm doing that. And then I'm doing a podcast. We do, myself and my friend Dave Moore do a podcast called Why Would You Tell Me That? And we've done kind of 11. And it's very good crack, actually. We basically, whenever we meet each other, we don't converse like normal human beings. We converse like, did you know that Ireland exports more bananas than any other European country? Really? Right? And our wives go, please go and sit together and talk to each other. So we tell each other random stuff. So we kind of said, well, we'll go and we'll try and do a sitcom. So we do this sitcom. We did actually. I said the word sitcom, but we actually did do a sitcom. We did a sitcom pilot once.
Oh, right, okay.
So then we said we do a podcast, and one person leads the podcast with kind of a couple of things he's found, and and the other person doesn't know what they're going to talk about. And in the second half, we get a genuine expert in, you know.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. You would find out why does Ireland export the most bananas?
Yeah.
And what's the reason for that?
I saw it on QI. I think we import them and we ripen them here or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember. I just thought I can't talk about that because I've seen it on QI. I have to find my own facts.
Yeah. Okay,
but like this week we had a woman on. She was an anthropologist from the University of New Mexico, and she lives with the Mwasuo tribe in China, who are people who live in a matrilineal society. So all the power and the inheritance goes through the maternal line, and they don't have institutionalized marriage. And they have found out that it's much better for your health if women have all the power.
I was going to say that.
The least surprising thing in the world.
When you say they don't have, I was going to say like war. They don't have fighting. They like, is it just like totally peaceful, or is it like?
Yeah.
So they don't.
It's more collegiate. It seems to be more collaborative. So generally speaking, your mum and your dad, they don't. A lot of the time they don't live together, and your dad fakes off.
Well, mine doesn't anyway.
Okay, right. Maybe you're ahead of the curve. You have a touch of Yunnan province to your accent. All right?
Yeah, we sort of tinge to it. Yeah, bit of Mandarin in there.
So you are raised in your mum's house, and you take her surname and stuff like this.
That's class.
But like she was on this week and she was fascinating. We had David McWilliams, who people might know, the economist, on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about the tulip bubble, when in the 17th century in the Netherlands, a tulip bulb was worth more than your house.
Yeah, when was that, in the 70s?
17th century. 17th
century, I think it's the 70s, because my dad went and worked in, but not the 1770s, it was the 1970s.
God, your dad's had a rich life. Yeah. He's lived for 400 years. And
went to China,
Chinese.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Yeah, so go listen to Neil's podcast as well. But so you're here to talk about 1997 being your wonder year. We don't have a resident expert, but we do have Riggsy in the corner who sort of pulls some stats off Google and
I suppose
Wikipedia,
that's
or
the
do you
whole
just
point.
come up with these? Are these just things you already know? You've
Well,
got
in
an encyclopedic-
1997 was easy because that's very much my era. That's whenever I mean, obviously, I'm going to try and make this as much about me as possible. Although I have had the microphone down because I feel like I'm in school and I'm eating food and trying not to get.
What are you eating?
I'm
by
eating
the
a
way?
German biscuit and drinking a cup of coffee. I'm just enjoying it. I didn't expect you to come to me this fast. So
You're being a listener this week.
Yeah.
Listeners.
Such a pro.
Yeah, in the corner.
Didn't expect to be spoken to on this podcast.
No,
With only
absolutely
three
not.
people.
I know, but I do have some information about 1997, which in my head is this beautiful era where music was fantastic and creativity was abundant and cool Britannia and Britpop and all of those things. Looking back on it, it's mostly sort of a dumpster fire of a year. It's horrifying, some of the stuff that was going on, and indeed some of the music. So, do you want me just to give you some of the things that happened in '97? And Neil, you can maybe tell us if you remember these fondly,
Okay.
where you were.
I'm going to say, was Britpop all over? Was it at its peak? It kind of hit its peak in '97.
It had jumped the shark, I guess, is the best way to describe it. It was Be Here Now.
Yeah,
So it was
yes,
the third
Oasis.
It was the third
That was the
Oasis.
third album.
Absolutely
Yeah.
huge selling, but
Yeah.
just made of cocaine.
That was
Yeah.
after Definitely Maybe and What's
Well,
the Story
definitely
Morning
maybe
Glory.
was the cool debut. What's
Yeah.
Saturday Morning Glory was the album where they
Follow-up.
just the
Both of them were great.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then Be Here Now was when I remember Be Here Right Here Right Now was the first single,
Yeah.
and you knew it was all going wrong because it was like full of helicopters, like it was a real high budget.
It wasn't so much that. It was all the tracks in the record were all like 5, 6, 7 minutes long.
Aye, that's right.
And
Magic
but it
Pie
had
and all that.
Around the World and Stand By Me, and it's aged relatively well, surprisingly
Yeah.
well, I guess.
Well, you see, I went to Belsonic. Liam Gallagher was doing Belsonic there a few days ago, and it was it was a weird experience because there was this generation gap between nobody's been interested in Oasis, the younger generations for the last sort of few generations, but now all the 18-year-olds and down love Oasis.
really?
And it's like for me it would have been Queen. Like my parents being into Queen was a big thing. I loved Queen, but I never got to see them. So I was at Oasis and there's all these like teenagers jumping about and they kept coming up and going, "Did you see the real Oasis?" like it was crazy. Like,
Tell us, old man.
Gather around,
You're like the fella in Indiana Jones, in the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Tell us about
Tell
the
them-
olden times.
And so oh my god, they're calling their mates. They saw the real Oasis. They saw the real Oasis. And like I was trying to enjoy it, but then they were all getting on each other's shoulders, and I was like, oh, they're going to get hurt. I couldn't just go with it and
You
just
could have told him anything.
Yeah, you could.
Oh yes, I played the lute in the original 6-piece band.
Do you remember Be Here Now? Yeah, I was second sitar on Magic Pie.
What I remember was because you're also going to say I reckon at some point, and the reason you're going to bring this up is because, well, it was a weird U2 album at the time as well.
Yeah,
Pop, they
so
had
this-
the Pop Mart was touring because I
Yes.
went to it.
And did you go to? So you would have been at it probably in Dublin or Cork or
Yeah,
something.
in Dublin. Yeah,
So the big deal for that record is the fact that it came to Belfast in
The big lemon
1997.
thing, wasn't it? The
Yeah,
big-
so the
was the
Pop
big
Pop
shiny
Mart
lemon,
tour
yeah.
was well. Neil tell us about Pop Mart in a moment, but everyone talks. It was like it was almost like it was the first thing that had ever happened, and people talk about that as if it was the first thing that had ever happened in Belfast. It was such a big deal,
Yeah.
because gigs of that scale, I guess, didn't really happen in the north, and that sort of was the first one. But I was there. And it was nowhere near as good as people get on. So I don't know what your recollections are of Pop
I
Mart.
remember I went with
Discotheque and all that stuff.
Yeah, like they really tried to kind of not jump the shark, but they did try and reinvent themselves. I seem to remember, and I mean, yeah, I kind of look back on it as I was in college. I was there with my first girlfriend and my best mate who I just met in college. So I mean, they could have played anything. They could have played a combination of A Nation Once Again and the Slash My Father Wore, which in fairness would be interesting.
brilliant.
But
Would've
like
went down to Belfast.
I would have, I would have seen it just through rose tinted glasses, I suppose.
Was that 97?
That was 97, and I also remember the night that they played. If I'm getting this wrong, I don't think I am. I think it would have been in August. In 97. I should have looked this up. And Princess Diana had just died, and Bono came on and went, something really sad had happened, and Offaly had also just lost to Mayo in the All Ireland semi
So you
final.
were
So I was like,
double whammy
I
for
was
you.
sitting there going, He's not going to mention the Master, is he? Oh no, it's about
yeah.
it's about the other thing. Okay, and so I just remember kind of going, Bono has an interest in Leinster and Connacht football that I frankly didn't expect. So it was all these weird kind of things happening at the same time. But I just remember being a sunny day, and you're 17 or 18, and all is right with the world, if you know what I mean.
So was U2, were they, just to get a picture of the type of person that you were, was U2 the type of band that you would have been into? So alternative music, but the biggest alternative music?
Well, I know nothing of music, which is probably a bit late to say that for this podcast, right? But I had a radio show on a national radio station for 3 years, and a lot of the time the producer would have to go, the band is Pulp and the song is Common People, rather than going, that's Common People.
Sounds right.
That's Pulp by Common People.
Yeah, that sounds about right though. The band Common People sounds even more plausible.
It does, doesn't it? So I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit there, but a lot of my musical influences when I was growing up, as I think a lot of people have, it's not mum and dad, but my brothers. My brothers are 7, 8, 9 years older than me. Brothers and sisters. So my brothers would be, I would like some kind of weird stuff like my brother had They Might Be Giants. He had that Flood album. So Something Happens, The Stunning, those bands that actually are a little bit it's a bit too early for me, but that's what I liked. And he liked, my brother Rory liked U2. And also it was an event. It was in Dublin. It was an event. So we went to that year, and I went to Fun Loving Criminals as well, who were massive at the time. So they're the kind of influences, really, not so much the parents.
That was Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me around that era.
No, that would have been before it. Sure, early 90s. That was in
That's
that
for
movie.
Batman.
Yeah,
the worst Batman ever.
But brilliant soundtrack. Like there was some cracking. Seal Kiss from a Rose and all was on that.
Oh,
that,
yeah,
that
absolutely.
Was like, but yeah, funny thing about U2 was that growing up, there were a band in our house. I remember they didn't get listened to much, and then I asked my uncle, who was really cool and into music and played in bands. I was like, "What do you think of U2?" And he's like, "Well, I'll tell you a few stories." He played in Big Self, a punk band from here that kind of did well over in England. And apparently he gigged with them in the Ulster Hall, and they supported them. Were they called Feedback or something back in the day before U2? There's some other name. But he says the hot take was that they were always talking about Echo and the Bunnymen and listening to what they were doing. And apparently there's a bit of a switch early on where they changed after like an album or two into sounding a bit like them. And he's like, just you listen.
Really?
So he had a bit of a thing about them because they ended up being massive, and my uncle's band didn't go anywhere.
Do you know that Bono's son, so he's in a band called Inhaler, and they did a huge show in Fairview Park in Dublin, maybe 5,000-6,000, which is just released a debut record or whatever. And obviously Bono wants to go, and I was talking to the promoter. I was down at a festival in Wicklow there at the weekend, and he was saying that they had to build this. So Bono wanted to go, but you can't have Bono at the gig because everyone would just turn around and stare at Bono, going, wow, watching his son's band. So they had
big lemon. They got the lemon back out again.
So they had to build almost like a sort of a chamber where he could see the band and the crowd, but no one could see him. So it's like an optical illusion sort of thing, where there was like a black sheet that came out
royal box
that was able to. So Bono was able to enjoy the gig, but people couldn't see him. So, but the logistics of that apparently were because they were sort of almost physics defying, I suppose. Yeah. But he got to watch the gig, and no one.
Like you can't wear sunglasses to disguise yourself if you're Bono, because that's
take them off.
Bono,
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. But he did get to go to the gig and see his son's band play.
Which is surely like if you were in Fairview Park, which I know very well, it's near my house. Surely if there's one pod with mirror glass in it, you're dying.
But that's the point. It had to be designed to not draw your attention to it, because obviously that would defeat the whole purpose.
I know.
Well,
Bono's here. He's inside that.
You
know what this? I figured out what this is. Boris Johnson wanted to build a treehouse for 150 grand, and it fell through. Did somebody build some sort of treehouse? The same architect built a treehouse, because presumably it has to be disguised as something that will be in Fairview Park anyway.
I think it was they used
massive pigeon,
or a physics. I don't think they used disguise. I think they used physics somehow, because anything that would be disguised would go, oh, well, obviously he's in that.
Yeah.
in that pod that's got like a few leaves around it.
Have to release the designs.
Was
This
he
is some
there, like-
Area 51 shit going
Yeah.
on here, like stealth.
I've got an idea that he's like a full-on sniper. Just Bono's lying in the grass,
Foliage
covered
over
in
him and all.
foliage.
Yeah.
Why is Bono underground dressed as somebody from
I
Nam?
played. I just used to play in a wedding band before I did stand up, and like I got talking to a guy who'd played a gig down south, and they were told before going to the gig, "Don't be playing any U2," and he was like, "Oh right, okay," and they were
Why?
like, and he was like, "Why?" And they were like sort of a bit sheepish about it, and we'd say, "Just don't be including any U2." So he said before the gig, "Right guys, no U2 apparently." And they're like, "All right, okay," and they started playing. They realized Bono was in the crowd at the wedding. You see, so it was like, "Oh fuck, that's why," because Bono's here. And so they were really nervous, like a band playing in front of Bono. And halfway through the second half, somebody come up and called us and says, "Bono would like to get up and sing a song with you."
Oh,
Shit,
deadly.
right? So he's like, okay, what one? And it's like, not one of his though. And it's like, do you know Stand By Me, Benny King? And I was like, yeah, no problem. It's as well as said Benny King, because I would have launched into the Oasis one. You know?
Yeah.
But it said Stand By Me, Benny. Yeah, no problem. So they called him up and he get up and he's like, just let me take it, lads. And he did like sort of almost a cappella at the start. When the night, and they were like one strum, bring has come. And he so got the whole way around. And once he'd done one verse and he was getting into the chorus, he kind of gave the nod to the band to kick in. But they played a really fast version and the drummer came flying and Bono was like, slow it down. And it didn't work at all. And Bono just put the microphone down and walked off during the song.
Halfway through.
Halfway through, he's like, you just fucked that up, lads.
Well, you're Bono. You
You
can do
did.
what you want. Yeah, I just remember that concert being. It might have been terrible, but it was amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean, you have that amount of production, it's going to be good fun.
Yeah.
The biggest act of the year in 1997 was not U2 though. The Spice Girls began to take over. That was Wannabe released at the start of the year.
Oh, wow.
And the infamous Brits appearance with Jerry Halliwell, Inner Union Jack. So who was
Yeah.
your favourite Spice Girl at the time? Did you have a favourite?
Who was my favourite Spice Girl at the time?
That's the type of hard-hitting questions we ask in this podcast.
Wow, God, it's like
Stole my kids' question.
It's like the Nolan show. That's what this is. My God.
Paddy actually
Come on.
not going, that's quite good
Yeah,
question.
that's brilliant, actually. Yeah,
Who is
journalism.
it and why
yeah.
is it?
Give
What
us
does that say
5
about you?
reasons, yeah.
I liked Mel B.
Yeah.
I liked Mel B.
Did you not go through phases?
She was a bit wild.
Yeah,
and
I
I kind
kinda
of liked,
switched it.
you know, she didn't really care and she was very
And
confident.
was she the one that
and-
you fancied as well? Or you being
Well,
sort of-
I was a teenager, so like at that stage, any of them. to be
Yes.
honest with
Not fussy.
you. You know, to be perfectly honest
What about
with you.
you,
I
Paddy?
fancied Mel C, Sporty Spice, because I thought if it didn't work out, would be able to play headers and volleys or something, you know, because she
Yeah.
looked like she could kick a ball.
She did, yeah.
Yeah. And now it turns out I'm doing Dalriada Fest and she's going to be on the same stage as me. So I'd be like, here.
I think you'd be intimidated by
football.
how fit she is, though.
Yeah, she's still like, she looks the exact same as she did back then. So yeah, that was Brits. That was the dress, the really short Union Jack dress.
So Jerry Halliwell wore that, at the Brits, and the music actually is just dog shit mostly.
Theirs or in general?
Mbop. Was that year?
Oh yes, it was.
I don't think so. So the top
It
10
was
releases
97.
of the
And,
year.
I'll tell you how I know, because 97 was the year. Cause did you remember years in sort of when football events happened?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the
Of course.
Euros, it was in between. It was
Yeah.
just before Euro 98, or sorry, France 98 World Cup. It was after Euro 96. But we had a summer where my mate's garage, we were allowed to stand and play in it. Like we had a wee Argos snooker table. And Mbop was always on long wave radio. And he came in one day after, because remember Top of the Pops was a real big sort of cultural thing. Everybody would talk about, did
Yeah.
you see such and such on Top
Yeah,
of the Pops?
yeah.
And we came in the next day and we were like just casually sort of playing pool. And my mate was standing behind me and we were like talking about Top of the Pops. And I says, oh, did you see Hanson on it? I hadn't, because we hadn't like clapped eyes on them. We just had heard it on the radio. Did you see Hanson? Yeah. And my mate turned around and went, he says, did you see the drummer? Oh, I definitely would.
Oh, really?
And everybody just stopped and looked around. He was like, he knew he'd said something wrong. And he's like, what? He's like, you would, the drummer? He's like, yeah, why wouldn't you not? He's like, it's a fella, they're 3 brothers. And we all ran out in the street and proceeded to tell all our mates. He was like, but he styled it out brilliantly.
He's sort of like a town crier.
Yeah,
He
that was
out
it.
into
We
the
all
street.
ran out in the street.
Everybody!
Ding, ding, ding. You know, it was like,
Is this how he came out to you?
Effectively, but I had a lot of respect for him because he styled it out.
Yeah.
I would have just crumbled.
Yeah.
But he just kind of came out, I'm what? Yeah, he does look smoking hot. And you're like, how's he going to play this? He's like, yeah, and what? I think he looks great. And I'm like, oh, well, that's the LGBTQ movement. In,
He did look great
West
as well, in
Belfast.
fairness,
Yeah, he
though.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see where he was coming from. Like,
Other music in the top 10. This is why it's a concerning year for music. You got Barbie Girl, I'll Be Missing You, Puff Daddy, Teletubbies Say A-O by the Teletubbies. They broke
That's right.
in 1997 apparently. And then you got some absolute bangers. Natalie Imbruglia, Torn.
Oh, that's a great song.
Is it
Don't Speak.
What was the show she was in? Was it
Neighbours?
Neighbours?
Neighbours, yeah.
I
Number
mean,
one.
Natalie Imbruglia, at that time, you're talking about the Spice Girls. If you had to pick one person, you would be your no strings, it would be Natalie Imbruglia.
Oh, absolutely. And still, she has aged fantastically.
Beautiful woman, yeah.
Yeah. Biggest track of the year, very, very easy. Don't make me get the glockenspiel out or the xylophone
Please,
out.
let's get this.
Was that the
Blakesy
song?
plays.
don't make me get the glockenspiel
That
out.
was the name of the band.
Se-
That was
I always get that
It's
wrong.
actually very obvious because it's literally one of the greatest selling singles of all time.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yes.
because
Candle in the Wind?
it's Candle in the
Candle in
Wind.
the Wind.
Ah, yes, Elton
So
John.
Princess die in August 31st, I think. But either of you get caught up in something like that. I mean, how did you feel, not to bring sort of, whether you're royalists or whatever, but how would you feel if something like that dies and it's all over the TV and you're seeing people upset all the time?
Well, back
Would that
then,
make you
like
feel
Diana
upset?
was one of those kind of weird anomalies because she was a royal that even when she was part of the royal family, everybody and all the women in West Belfast loved her.
Yeah.
But like they watched the royal wedding, they closed the curtains and blinds because they didn't want people knowing. But it became very
Yeah.
obvious that all the houses in the street with their blinds closed
Were the
so you could
people
see
who
the
were
other
watching
ones
the royal
watching
family.
the royal wedding. So Diana was like one of those kind of heroes. So that was a big thing. And I remember I found that out that she'd died. I was the one in our house discovered it because I was on playing Bamboozle on teletext. And when I went, but like the homepage, it came up that Princess Diana was dead.
Yeah.
Like her fatal crash, or that she was involved in a crash. And you went down, it was on the news. And Dermot Murnaghan, do you remember him presented the news? You'd know his face.
Yeah, he's on
Um,
Sky now, yeah.
Oh yeah, and I'm pretty sure it was him. And I was the one got to break it to the family. And after getting asked, sort of a bamboozle question, I came down with like a great, tidbit. I was like, looks like Diana's dead. So then we all sat around the TV. But yeah, it was a big sort of. Don't think anybody took any pleasure in any of that.
No, you wouldn't take pleasure. I'm not
Yeah.
asking, did you take pleasure? And it's more, would you get caught up in the grief and suddenly find yourself distressed about,
No.
just because seeing TV
Distressed
so
in
much?
that it was a young mother with two kids who
Yeah.
died tragically, but that's sad when it happens to anybody who's not a royal.
Yeah,
so
of course.
even at that age, I wasn't kind of caught up in that. But that's not my cultural milieu, I suppose, that I grew up in.
But
Other people that died in 1997,
Go on.
Mother Teresa,
Oh, she
how'd you
died
feel
then.
about her?
I at the time I was like caught up. Do you know why she's been sort of retrospectively cancelled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mother Teresa canonized and cancelled at the same time. Like she has that's a record.
I need to begin to CAN, basically.
Yeah.
So what's next one? Canonical, fired out of a cannon.
Yeah, she's found out. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the cans. She did the can. Yeah, because my granny was like a super like religious Catholic, like. And I do talk about it in my stand-up. She turned out she was Protestant. She had been Protestant for 21 years when she was younger, and then converted to Mary Magranda.
Yeah.
So it was almost like she was making up
The zeal of the
for
converted,
lost,
yeah.
decades of the Rosary, and but she loved Mother Teresa and Padre Pio. Was
Oh,
a
yeah.
big thing for her. She was almost like a sort of a Catholic hipster. She was into them before they were saints.
My mother met Padre Pio.
Did she?
My mother, my
raging.
mother
So
met
who for
Padre Pio was an Italian saint.
He was a monk, and
what was
then
his
he was
era?
1960s. He died in the 60s, and they met him on their honeymoon in Rome in 67. And I used to stand up about this as well because he said to my mother, and she used to say, he said, "Bless the children that you will have, not that you might have, that you will have." And I was saying to him, "You were a young married Irish Catholic couple in the 1960s. It's not a massive leap, is it? It's not Mystic Meg, bless the Late Show that you will watch."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not a huge,
Yeah.
huge leap. Yeah, so they're all the same era in terms of those. Like they were big cultural figures as well. So I'd say Mother Teresa was widely mourned around the world, and particularly in parts of Ireland, north and south.
My sister had one of her friends in my granny's house, and she had pictures of Padre Pio everywhere.
Yeah.
And she was walking, she went, "Oh, is that your granda?" You're like, "Teresa." And my granny was raging. She wishes it was.
That could be a scandal. That would be a scandal. I was trying to tell my friend of mine the other day that my auntie had, she used to have hologram. You know those hologram pictures?
Oh,
Do you remember
God,
those?
yeah, yeah.
So she had one of Jesus on the cross,
Followed
right? And
you
I was
around the
about
room.
8 or 9, and I walked into the room in my auntie's sitting room. I walked by the sitting room, and she had it on the wall facing the door. And so Jesus would be on the cross like this, right? And I walked by him, and he used to do that. right? If you turn the angle. And I walked through and I said to my brothers, again, 7 and 8 years older than me and 10 years older than me, I said, did you see that? And they went, no. And they completely denied that they could ever see it. So I was fully convinced as a 6 or 7 year old that
An apparition.
Jesus looked at me and only me. Older brothers are bastards.
Yeah,
aren't they?
that's psychological. Did they wonder, was that pre-planned, or did they just see the
Oh
opportunity?
no, like sharks that saw
that's
blood in the
sensitive.
water. Yeah,
because you were saying they're older than you, like said.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's class.
Yeah.
See, my granny had all those things. Like, who made the decision that this was okay? That like there's a sort of hologram kind of trick you can do. Let's make it of Jesus. You know,
Yeah.
surely there was this, like, that's a bit sacrilegious, because I always remember my granny had the big bottle of holy water. You know, that was in the shape of Mary.
Yeah.
Like a plastic Mary. But the crown that you wore,
Oh, yeah.
screwed off.
the little blue one.
Quite a lovely design, you know, sort of just you know, convenient.
I don't think it was a crown. Mary didn't wear a crown.
Yeah,
Oh no, it
maybe
wasn't.
we'd have-
It's a plastic bottle. I know the one you're talking
That's
about, kind
half
of
the
white.
reason for the Reformation.
And
like,
then she'd
you know.
have a blue.
But I don't
Yeah,
think
the
she
wee blue
actually
Catholics
wore a
do
crown.
merch like nobody
Oh,
else.
yeah, the Catholic merch.
Catholics
is
do
brilliant.
merch like
Holy
no one
shops
else.
are a thing. Like
Oh,
holy
yeah.
shops are great. I spend hours in holy shops just to see the kind of things they're coming up with.
Like a lollipop with the Pope's face in it. It's
There's
just
definitely
wrong.
got to be iPhone covers with, you know, your favorite saint on it.
Oh god, yeah.
Saint Anthony means you'll never lose your iPhone.
Yeah.
Because Jesus was lost, Jesus was found, and all that. But no, I remember her getting the Mary stuff out, and she used to have
Mary stuff
The
out.
Mary stuff or memorabilia, but like she always had like a 2.5 litre carton of Dale Farm milk that had been emptied out, and somebody brought her back Lourdes water. You know, like water from Lourdes. It was like, this is the good stuff. And I seen her putting it into things. And I was like, this is lasting for years. And then I realised what she'd done. I saw her do it one day. She put into the Mary thing. She topped it up with about 90% normal tap water, and then like diluted, like this was my water. She diluted it and put some actual Lourdes water in. I'm like, Granny, you're playing.
How holy is that?
Yeah,
at that
you're
stage?
playing God basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that was to come out and bless our car. She used to bless you. If you got a new car, she'd come out and bless it.
Oh, your granny did that.
Yeah.
She wouldn't get a priest to do it.
No,
your granny did it.
I
She
was
took
like
powers
10
upon
I
herself.
10%.
genuinely asked. I said one time, "Is she ordained? Is this legit?"
Yeah.
She didn't like it, and she did one time. The one I remember it had like automatic window wipers, and it went, and she, no, that car, don't like it. Don't like it.
I remember my obstreperous
Protestant car.
teenage phase going, you know, we have a Padre Pio sticker on the front of our car. Padre Pio Protect sticker on the front of the car. My mother was like, yeah. I says, what happens if the other car that we crash into also has a Padre Pio Protect sticker? How does that work? She said, go on whoever has the bigger sticker.
That's a
so
big.
you're just driving around with a full
Yeah.
cardboard cutout of Padre Pio on the front of your car.
The insurance claim on that one.
Yeah.
Like, did you have your Padre Pio sticker on it? Right, well then you're not at fault.
I, upon researching this program and researching maybe rather a grand term for what I do in preparation, respectfully, went down a real rabbit hole with Deep Blue. Do you know about Deep Blue, the IBM computer that they designed?
Gary
Oh,
Gas.
Kasparov.
Gary
Yeah,
Kasparov, yeah. I do have a
chess
joke
player?
about him though.
Okay.
The joke goes, I was having lunch with Gary Kasparov. Tablecloth is checked. Took him 2 hours to pass me the salt. It's good, you know. It's good. Like
that.
Anyway, yeah. So and then they
by the
played him
computer?
once, and then they did it again, and the computer beat Gary Kasparov, and it was a really big deal. But I ended up watching documentaries and massive YouTube clips about this last night. So
this was the start of the sort of AI.
well, that was the thought. But then Gary Kasparov was so raging that he says, right, we'll have to have a rematch, like the trilogy basically, because he had beaten Deep Blue easily, and then Deep Blue had beaten him. So then he's going, right, I want a trilogy, I want to prove myself, and they wouldn't let him do it because I think people started to get a bit freaked out
Oh.
by just how far this computer could go.
Shit. It's a bit like that guy. Did you hear about the guy from Google that's been put on it's like paid leave because he said this AI thing
sentient.
is sentient and talking back to
But the
him?
thing about that is now, like you could buy on your phone or any chess program would at its highest setting would beat Deep Blue.
Ah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because
See, what
it's
you need
not-
to do
it's
is,
not a big
is
deal.
trash talk Deep Blue. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, can't
That's
cope
what he
with that.
wanted. the
One
third
zero
one.
zero zero
Yeah.
zero 11011.
Yeah.
Binary.
Not.
Yeah. Your mother was a George Foreman grill. You just
yeah.
give it loads of abuse.
Yeah, did you see Windows 95 have come out with? You can't do that. It's
Yeah.
like, well, what are they doing? You know, like
Oh, crash
Professional
and send
jealousy.
a Windows error report.
So if you watch the documentary, it's just some guy playing for Deep Blue who gets all the credit or abuse, and it's just some guy just moving the pieces what the computer says. He's
That
like,
is
you know. So other stuff that happened in 1997, other than Princess Diana and Deep Blue beating Gary Kasparov, cloning
Tony
of
Blair.
Dolly the sheep. Tony the Blur became
Blair
Tony the
happened.
Blur.
Yeah.
Tony
Tony
the
the,
Sheep.
Tony the Sheep. Wow, what a 4chan
quite a big one.
conspiracy theory that started on this show.
Yeah, became Prime Minister. I thought that it happened earlier because I suppose Cool Britannia was earlier, wasn't it? That was part of his campaign.
But yeah, Noel
Jumped on
Gallagher visited
He
Downing
went to
Street, didn't he?
Downing
And they were
Street.
big
Yeah.
Labour
And
supporters.
they used Things Will Only Get Better.
D-Ream.
D-Ream.
which didn't go down particularly well. The launch of Pokemon and GTA. Grand Theft
Grand Theft
Auto
Auto
really?
started then,
was
didn't
the
it?
first time. So did either of you play GTA? The original
Yeah, I
version, or did-
played the original one. I stopped gaming around about then. Like I used to be really into like Super Nintendo, NES, and then I had a PlayStation 1, and then it all got a bit too complicated. It was too hard. And then GTA, I like GTA, but it used to be everybody like it's kind of a cultural thing now. People see the like the violence and it's all really well made and high spec. But back then it was literally bird's eye view pixels of you just running over. And the only way you knew you'd ran over somebody is whenever there was a trail of blood behind you. It could have been a lamppost or whatever. You were like, and then you would just clean out like a group of people. But I remember that was the first game I played that my ma got a bit concerned about what I was playing. Because before that it was all like Micro Machines or Super Mario.
Yeah.
And I remember coming in and I think I was kind of desensitized very quickly to how violent it was, because there's that argument about, it causes gun violence in America and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It did desensitize me. Not that I was out running people over in the car or anything like that, but she came in, she was like, what are you playing? I was like, oh, it's called GTA. What's it? Grand Theft Auto. And then she was really good at, like, she had the record of completing Mario Brothers in our house at the quickest. And I remember when she did it, she ran out into the street shouting. Oh, it's a vivid memory of it. She was like, "Oh, give me a go."
Whenever
So
you
she
have to
started.
run out in the street, your house, whatever, anything happens.
When everything
it's
happens,
twice.
yeah,
Was
she's
it a
got
tiny
a
like
house?
phones or
you couldn't have celebrated anywhere else. It was just a very competitive street, and there were other kids, like parents, that were trying to complete Mario. You would have went in and you couldn't get a go because they were sitting with a tin of Kilkenny beer and a fag waiting on, like Luigi loading up, But yeah, so she played it and she was horrified by it whenever I explained that the group of that you just mowed over were Hare Krishnas. There was these Hare Krishnas you used to walk about and you got like bonus points if you got them all in one go.
No way.
Yeah, you just run them over. And then I remember going into town because remember the Hare Krishnas used to go around city centre quite a bit. You don't see that now.
These people keep running them over. By the sounds of things.
It's all dubbed online, probably.
Buster Translink.
Some wee fella from West Belfast.
It's funny how it's advanced since then because I was talking to a woman actually interviewed on a radio show, Emer Noon, and she was a composer for games.
Oh, right.
For the music for games. And she was saying it's funny because that used to be kind of looked down upon a little bit. And now, a couple of years ago, games made more money than movies and theatre and everything else combined. And she was saying that if you consider, if I do the music for a game, if I do the music for a film, someone will hear it once probably. When they see it, maybe twice.
Yeah.
But actually, if you on a game, your music is much.
Yeah.
It's going to be imbibed in a completely different way, and so that's kind of switching now. They're getting much more respect, which they deserve compared to what they used to get.
Grand Theft Auto was like that because whenever it moved on a wee bit, I know in the first version it was there, but whenever it started to get into its stride in the early 2000s, everybody loved the Grand Theft Auto soundtrack. Because when you get in and stole a car, a certain radio station would be on, and it had like a lot of 80s songs that got a second wind, a bit like sort of early version of Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill, where certain 80s songs that didn't really do much back in the day got a big massive boost because everybody, when you got into a car, and I remember that was how desensitized again you were on a mission to go and kill like a drug dealer, but when you get in, the first thing you did in the car was find the radio station. You're like, I'm gonna go and kill your man here with this AK-47, but I have to find this certain radio station.
You know the way now you have the games where you can choose the ending. How specific will it get? Like, will it be geolocated where you can put on Hugo Duncan specifically on the radio station? I want a bit of Wee Man from Strabane as you're driving around LA.
Skiddly-dee, well, if you're ready to kill somebody with an AK-47, here's a wee track for you.
That would be a request. It's always a request.
Oh, yeah,
this one's for Paddy. He's out now on a bit of a mission.
He's out now. He's cleaning his AK-47. He's leaving from Oma tonight. He's driving all the way to San Bernardino to take on a biker gang.
Skiddly-dee, dispose of her body behind the dumpster.
Oh, dear.
I remember Darryl Brain did a brilliant bit about him playing GTA and saying, like, in order to complete a mission, you have to not be caught by the police. You can't, alert them to the fact that you're sort of, doing something illegal. So he ended up sitting on his day off commuting because he just was sitting in traffic going, I've took a day off from work to stop this shit, and I'm sitting commuting in traffic because I want to, complete this fucking mission. That's the hold that the GTA has over you.
Well, I don't feel like we've learned that Neil wasn't really into music, and we've learned, I'm assuming, that you weren't really into gaming. There's no point me talking about great records released by bands that I love, like Primal Scream and Spiritualize. It was actually quite a good year. OK Computer came out as well. So
OK Computer is that is a cracking album.
But what were you into? What was the 1997
I
Neil?
did comedy.
Even back then, that was
So you could be into more than just comedy. But surely comedy back then would have been Vic and Bob. And
it was. I'll tell you what. How I got into comedy was but like comedy was. It was Blackadder. It was Blackadder Goes Forth. It was Cheers that was repeated in RTE.
So that was mainly TV. You could only really consume
comedy,
it back then.
Yeah, because there wasn't a lot of stand up on telly.
Yeah.
And what was on was the stand-up show on BBC. And Tommy Tiernan had hosted it.
Ardal Hanlon
had hosted it. So if you're a young lad growing up in Ireland and you're a culture, and then suddenly two lads from outside England, specifically Ireland and cultures, are hosting this, a little part of your brain goes, ooh.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I remember one of the first things I ever saw was Sean Locke on it. God rest his soul. And I remember he did this thing where he used to do impressions, right?
Was this
I really miss having a fringe.
Yeah, that's right.
Used to go, I could do some impressions now. It's like Hitler and like this.
Yeah,
Bobby Charlton.
The Bobby Charlton.
I remember thinking this guy's a genius, and so I was into that. And
that was quite a big time. I loved that show. Was that a Friday night or a Saturday night?
Saturday night, yeah. You go out for a few drinks, you come back. And you'd watch that.
Bill Bailey used to pop up on it.
Bill Bailey, yeah. Friends. It's hard to overstate how big Friends was at the time. Like I remember in college, you'd have a project, and in the midst of this project, I did software engineering. You would stop, and I remember going down to the lobby of the building, like the lobby of any sort of office building, and there was a TV in the corner, and people, and watching Friends at 8:30, because obviously there was no you couldn't record it or anything like that. You had to catch it, but everybody was talking about it, and it was water cooler TV. So I liked that. I liked sport, I liked Liverpool, and I mean, obviously teenagers love some degree of music. So, I did drink around campfires to OK Computer when someone took out a guitar and sang Creep. And David Gray was absolutely massive.
Yeah, White Ladder.
From a couple of years before. White Ladder. White Ladder is still, I think, one of the top 2 or 3 biggest selling albums in Ireland ever.
Yeah, he toured. He did a White Ladder. It was meant to be the 20th anniversary of it, but then COVID had happened or something.
So he was on a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, and it was massive crowds. Like, such a fondly remembered album.
Yeah.
As you were saying about, like, Friends and, at TV at the time, like, I kind of never really, I used to try and work out why was I the kind of kid I was in school where I, like, had this encyclopedic knowledge of things that had happened on TV the day, I would remember every line of Friends and watch it, almost not enjoying it, just kind of trying to remember all the funny bits, because when I went into school, people knew, oh, Paddy, what was that bit that, and then I'd be able to repeat whether it was Friends or stand-up routines from, thing, and to go in and to be able to do that, it was a bit like getting your phone out and, sort of, or sending somebody a meme or sending somebody a clip, because you couldn't rewind it and go back to it, so it was the Fast Show as well. I would nearly remember every single Fast Show routine, so I remember lying in bed, laughing back to them, repeating it in my head, and like people, I used to walk into classes and teachers knew about it. I remember being sent for like something out of one of the physics rooms, and the teacher, I walked in, I was like, Paddy, what was the punchline at the end of the Ted and Ralph thing, and then I'd go and do the whole routine, like, I only asked for the punchline, but sure, but that was something I always had to do. You couldn't record it.
They were so big.
With Father Ted and all the Chris Morris stuff, Partridge was,
Brass Eye,
so that was all 97. Around that time, so that's maybe what we're learning, that 97 was a brilliant year for comedy. So maybe by stealth, that's why you've picked it, Neil.
Maybe that's I think I suppose you just pick. I think I probably picked it because of the county, the college, the first job, real kind of college job as well. There was a window factory in Eden area. It was a Danish window factory, and I got a job for the summer there, and I can't these are virtually useless. As Tommy Turner once said, they're the hands of a poet. And that's what they are. So like I was in there and basically I put the rubber in the windows. So where there's no putty, in a window, you cut the rubber and just push it in like for 40 hours a week, just putting rubber into windows because I wasn't allowed to do anything else because I don't have hands to wet my hole, basically. But I just remember, and the song that was there, it was great crack as well. Like there was lads and there were, you'd be chatting to one and then you'd realise, God, that guy's been really friendly to me, he doesn't really know me. And then you'd realise he was distracting you while one of the other fellas glued your feet to the floor. That's what they used to do. They used to mastic your feet to the floor. And then, but it didn't take you long for you to get into it. So then you just picked on the next person who came in. So there's a young lad who was even younger than me, came in and I said, it's... So it was a big warehouse, and we said it's tradition for everybody to sign their name on the roof with a marker. So he said, how do we get to the roof? And he goes, we'll put you on the forklift forks. So we put him on the forklift forks and we put him up to the roof and he signed his name and then we just fucked off. Just left him up there.
Love those.
Yeah, it's just so
you
mean.
miss that kind of thing. I remember the first job I had, like I was always the butt of those jokes.
Yeah.
And I remember that there was,
that,
I would send you up for a long wait and then you're sitting there for ages.
Yeah.
But I was working in Duns.
Get the bubble for a spirit level.
Yeah, yeah. Or they used to do the ones in bars that say, like the DJ would be playing, they'd go up and ask the DJ up, and it was two GAA clubs close to each other, St. Gall's and Rossa. Go up and ask the DJ in Rossa for a bucket of mist for his smoke machine. So he would go up and be like, is that enough? But yeah, I was working in Duns and there was a wee fella joined who was just beneath me and I was like, yes, I want to, lord it over him.
You kicked his shit in.
Yeah, I just headbutted him. Yeah. But I did go too far because I wanted to kind of make sure I stamped my authority. And we were doing
it's not a prison.
No.
I
shanked him in the shower.
Took him out of the top bunk and shivved him.
Well, this was almost as dangerous because we were doing a stock take, and have either of you ever worked in like retail where you have to do a stock check or stock take? You have to count every single item in the shop. And this was Dunn's, the homewares. It was massive. You're counting tea towels and face cloths and fucking everything, and including the stockroom. So I got stuck doing the stockroom. So I got this wee fella in. Stevie, I was like, Stevie, come on, we'll do the stockroom. And he came in with me, and you had to count what was called the void. So there was two like walls, one in the end. So it separated you from the shop, but it was only about like 2 feet of space in between them, and stuff over the years had fell down. And it says that stuff needs to be counted. So I was asked to do it. And I sent him down a ladder, down into the void. And at that, we had an inspection that says, pull that fucking ladder. And we pulled the ladder. And Steve was like, shh, you have to be quiet. So this guy came in inspecting, and he couldn't turn. He had to stand.
That's awful.
Like some
That's
sort of like
anxious.
Chinese torture kind of thing, like in a concentration camp. He had to stand like that for about 45 minutes while this guy walked around. Yes, and he went out, and he came out crying. And I was like, I think I went too far there.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, leaving a fella up a forklift for 15 minutes while we went for a cup of tea isn't as bad as the void.
In my
which is every
send
horror
him to the
film
void
ever. Just poor young
into
lad.
the void. In fairness, I didn't know we were going to have an inspection. I thought he would go down, gather up the tea towels that had fell down, and we'll come up and we'll count them and dust the cobwebs off.
Why couldn't he come out with the inspection? Because you'd be inspected for putting
because
people in
we
the
shouldn't
void?
have had someone in the void.
Maybe you shouldn't have a void in the first place.
Yeah, well, that's true.
The void. I would have thought the title, the void.
The void,
yeah.
Like if it was called the gap, it's not as scary.
The gap, yeah, but the void does.
The void
sound
is
very
something
final.
is.
It used to be
happen.
where like duvets would fall over, and it'd be like your manager. I remember this culty manager of mine. She'd be like, "Where's the double duvets? Where's the Patrick? Won the double? They're in the fucking void. Get into the void and get them." I'm not going down that void again. And I used to go up and down it, but this was during an inspection.
And do you still see that young lad's ghost, or
yeah, he's still there.
dressed in one of the sheets that's fallen down the void?
Yeah, they knocked the building down. They found him. Like it's standing, just still there. Hadn't sat down. You couldn't sit down.
Just
the void. It's a good film idea, that though. Let's get it on the go.
Should we up the mood a little bit and enjoy Neil's birthday?
Oh yeah.
I should point out straight away that Neil is on board with the security risk this segment offers.
Yeah.
Paddy is very, very paranoid about this. Me less so, but Neil.
I have said to him that he can't say what it is, but he can.
No,
give me
but I'm not
roughly
going to give your. But you say, I think you misunderstood. I didn't need the year. I don't need your actual date of birth. It's your birthday in '97.
Oh, okay.
You see, so
Yeah.
but we wouldn't actually give out the actual birthday anyway because that
Is
would
a
be
security risk, yeah.
Yeah.
would be
Okay.
so the 3rd of June 19. I can't even remember. I actually haven't got it written down, but this I've got the birthday of the previous person because I haven't sort of copy and paste feel, but the statistics are correct.
Oh, okay.
So whatever your birthday is, actually can't say because I can't remember. Anyway, so here's the music that would have been on the stereo. If you can imagine your birthday in 1997, we'll ask you in a second what that actually would have been like. Okay. How many of these songs would you have been enjoying? The Hillbilly Rock, Hillbilly Roll, Woolpackers track. I have no idea what that is.
No idea.
That would be the guys, the fictional band from Emmerdale.
From the Woolpack was the pub, yeah.
Yeah, so
really?
I remember they released a single.
That's
It's
what
real
it was.
middle of the road kind of.
All by Myself, Celine Dion.
Oh God.
Not
Horny by Mark Morrison. Did you have that at your
Mark
party?
Morrison wasn't horny. That he might have been, but that was Moose T
No, but
versus Hot and Juicy.
I thought that as well.
I think I'm more likely to have had All By Myself at my birthday party. All right.
A different
Horny
beat.
and All By Myself.
Horny
on my
was
birthday
basically
party.
all of college, obviously. Yeah.
So did Mark Morrison have a song called Horny?
According to my
Was that
sources.
I'm horny, horny, horny,
No,
horny?
No,
that's
wouldn't have been that.
Moose T versus he knew the full
versus
name.
Hot and Juicy. I remember it well because like that was one of those songs that was on the radio, and as a like sort of teenager, you kind of got over the fact that it was just horny being repeated millions of times, and I remember then it come on, and my mom would be like, "Turn that off, that's disgusting," because you're sitting singing as you pull into mass. You know, you've got it turned up. I'm horny, horny, horny at like 12. You don't want to be going into mass singing that.
No.
But yeah, so
No, that attracts the wrong crowd. All right.
turn it. That's
Pulling
why she
into
was saying turn
mass,
it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mark Morrison had one. I can't even
What
remember
else
that.
was on?
So nothing so far. Breathe by the Prodigy. Funny you mentioned
Oh,
the
yeah.
Prodigy with the Smack My Bitch Up on the album Fat of the Lamb, which came out in 97. My wee brother, 10 years younger than me, would have been singing that, and we used to tell him it was Smack My Biscuit. And to this day we talk about Smack My Biscuit.
Bitch
which is
Up was
quite
Chemical Brothers, is it?
No, that's Prodigy.
Oh, was it?
No, I don't think it was. I think it was Chemical Brothers. No, it was Prodigy. It was Prodigy.
What am
Are
I
you
thinking?
actually
Bitch Up?
questioning me?
Yeah, you should know
It
not
was.
to question
It was.
him.
Yeah. He's
Smack My Bitch Up was on. Yeah.
Smack my bitch, smack my bitch up.
What song are you singing?
I
It
don't
didn't go,
know.
Smack My Bitch Up.
I'm doing it.
Wasn't
I'm
like a
doing
soul
a
singer.
lounge version.
Yeah.
Smack her right up. It was Smack My Bitch Up.
Yeah.
Change my pitch up.
Yeah.
Okay, no. I'm thinking of the Marvin Gaye version.
Yet you're trying to question who performed this song.
No. I've realised
Barry White.
once you immediately stared daggers at Paddy, I went, okay, yeah.
You ducked
He-
out.
It was the fact
Yeah.
that he was questioning me.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
can't have
like-
to duck out with the
That's
music.
the one thing I would know whether it's a Prodigy or a Chemical Brothers song.
Okay.
Madonna, Don't Cry For Me, Argentina. 1&1, Robert
It was from
Miles.
Ray Vita, wasn't
So
it?
Robert Miles had another song other than Children.
1 on 1 still is 1. Terrible at maths, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbreak My Heart, Tony Braxton, and Two Become One by the Spice Girls. That's what sort of rang alarm bells about how bad the music was in 97, because that was a very poor
Ballads.
top 10. Yeah.
All those songs at the time, I didn't really like the Tony Braxton one and all at the time, but I found now that since the pandemic and sort of going into my 30s, which I did before the pandemic, but I will be found at the end of a night sitting in my shed with power ballads on, drunk, drinking gin. I never thought I would ever be that guy.
Crying.
But I would we tear every now and again, but I'm partial because back in I was always
think
let's
you
stick
need
on music that's all about
Found
professional intervention.
therapy. I mean, I used to drive over like the fun and how much you were in the game of Grand Theft Auto
Yeah.
and driving over people, particularly Harry Creationists.
Sin-
We're putting a young lad in a
Into the
void,
void, yeah.
and we're getting living in a shed,
I'm
crying.
I'm
with power
atoning.
ballads.
It's all coming back to me. You see, it's all coming back to me now. Celine Dion is another great one.
You know, there's no podcast. You know, your
Yeah.
mum and dad have asked this entire thing to be an intervention.
These aren't even on.
He's a professional psychiatrist, and this is a big ruse.
See those notes I'm making? They're not for the edit. They're to report back to
that
colleagues.
Could be it. This is all evidence. This will be being played. I can see myself watching this back, the video version in
Yeah,
court.
in
you
an
know,
orange jumpsuit.
Yeah.
With somebody sketching you going.
that's what the Harry Christians we used to wear, the orange jumpsuit. It's all Lincoln now.
Okay, I can see it.
We also have a gift for you, Neil. And
wow.
You've got the best gift that we've. I mean, none of it's actually real.
Riggsy, you do that every time he says we have a gift. You don't have.
I'm
the
looking
gift. And
around
he looks
for the
same
gift.
spot. People are like,
Well,
where is
listen,
it?
What is the gift?
I'm giving you one of the first of its kind. We were talking about this off her. I'm going to give you a Toyota hybrid car, the first of its kind
Prius.
in 1997. So the first sort of environmentally green car vehicle was 1997. So that we can discuss how we feel about electric cars and saving the environment and all those type of things. Do you drive an electric car?
I don't. I'd like to get an electric car. I remember I used to have a joke about electric cars, and they're very good for the environment and also very good on. They cut down on people doing themselves in. You should get them. You should get one because very difficult to attach the hose pipe to the exhaust pipe of an electric car. Like the air is cleaner inside, and people look at you and I go, yeah, no. A friend of mine had. He actually tried to do himself in an electric car and he cured his asthma. And as long as you said it completely straight, then they would go for it and they go, okay, this is being ridiculous. Yeah, no, I'd definitely like to get one. I have to say, I have a diesel car and I need to switch it. But I kind of like the diesel because when you switch off a diesel, do you have a diesel or a petrol?
I have a diesel, yeah.
Do you know when you switch off a diesel, it kind of goes like that?
Yeah, the wee
it
shudder.
shudders. I quite like
That was a good one.
Yeah, it's like you've really been on your A game with your missus.
Yeah.
It's like going, the shudder of a diesel.
I don't get that with petrol, like.
Yeah. So I'd like to get an electric car, but that's the first hybrid.
Yeah, 97. I have an electric car, and I discovered this weekend. I was driving down it that I mentioned it was at a festival, and I got caught on the way down with the Armagh traffic going to the
All Ireland, yeah.
the quarter final, and on the way back as well. So there was a little bit of drama about people sort of using the electric cars. See, other people who own electric cars, I'm trying to think of all the things, but they talk to you like it's an opening for them to talk to other people who have electric cars in great detail about their electric car.
Right, okay.
And I don't want to talk to them, but because I don't have a charger at my house because I thought I'd get one. I've since learned that I probably need to get one. That's neither here nor there. So every time I go and charge my car, if there's somebody pulling out or pulling in, they always talk.
Want to chat to you?
They want to chat to you about the type of electric car you have, about the type of electric that they're using, the type of plug, and they want to tell you if you're doing something wrong. It's like I suppose if there was some way to know that you were a vegan, like if you wore a sign and you met another vegan, you would automatically just start. You know that's very cliche, but it's kind of true. People with electric cars are like that.
If you bring a dog to a dog park specifically,
Yeah.
that's what happens as well. People at dog parks with dogs want to talk to you about your dog.
Yeah.
I have a 3-legged dog. Her front right leg is gone, and that's how we fostered her. And my brother said to me, "It's a shame they didn't remove one of her back legs instead." And I was like, "You know, they removed the injured leg, don't you? Like they didn't. It wasn't a punishment beating or anything. She stole something in Saudi Arabia, and they went eeny, meeny, miny, mo." And so when I bring my dog there, they're always like, they have to let you know how much they know about dogs as well.
Yeah,
that's
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're always like, oh, that's a Belgian Shepherd. A lot of people say that's a German Shepherd, isn't it? But I know it's Belgian Shepherd, you know, because I heard it barking earlier on and something about the accent. And for my dog, I started going a few times in a row, and I got so kind of frustrated at these people. I have started to now pretend I know nothing about dogs. And my wife was with me one day to the extent of that I didn't know they should have 4 legs. So she was with me one day, and a woman went, "What happened to your dog?" And I went, "What are you talking about?"
What do you mean?
And she went, "What happened to your dog?" And my wife was mortified. I was like, "No, serious." She goes, "Well, what happened to her? Where's her front?" Like, and then looked at me like I was a complete simpleton, like they should have 4 legs.
Why didn't you should have went? What happened to your dog? Why's your dog got 4?
As an
Where'd you
extra
get the
leg.
extra leg?
I thought this was just my breed had that.
Yeah.
It's the same.
I said I thought it was a hatchback. That's what I said. I said I thought it was an entry level dog, and she genuinely stared at me. And then they wander off into the woods and leave you alone.
We'll wrap it up in a wee second. But the last question: would you go back to 1997? How long would you go back for? Or would you just?
Ooh. Am I the age I am now in 1997?
Yes, it's not like you're coming back as an older you and you can see your young self because
it's just me.
It's just you're going back to experience
right now.
it.
Me now is going back there.
It's going to happen. We're going to do it. Would you do it? What would you do differently?
Would I? Yeah, I would. I'd like to go back. I'd like to tell
my mate Stevie not to go into the void.
I'd like to warn Stevie. I'd like to warn, or at least I'd like to bring him give him a camera so we could do Stranger Things 5. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to go back. I'd like to tell 17-year-old me or whatever age I was that you relax, you know, because you don't know anything and you just think. Yeah, and I just go, listen, it'll all work out, and I'd say have as much fun as you possibly can.
Before we wrap it up, what have you got coming up, tours wise?
I'm doing the SSE Arena, and I've got the podcast which is called "Why Would You Tell Me That?" And it's like this. It's non-topical. So at whatever point you find it, you can listen to them all.
Lovely, very good. Well, thanks for coming in.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great crack.